Children, as we all know that India has a very glorious and long history of various kings and their kingdoms. So in this module, we will come to know about new empire and kingdoms. The rise of new kingdoms in ancient India. After the fall of the Mauryan, the country was divided into many small kingdoms and empires. Like the Kushanas, this era saw the increase in trade of Rome. The period also saw individual and cultural development in the various kingdoms, which culminated in the golden age of the classical period of India under the Gupta Empire 320 to 800 CE. Sri Gupta established the Gupta Empire. He laid the foundation of an ideal society and defined orthodox Hindu thoughts. The other important rulers of the dynasty were Chandragupta I, Samudragupta, and Chandragupta II. Samudragupta was the fourth ruler of the Gupta Empire and the son and successor of Chandragupta I. Like his grandfather, he was also called Maharaja Dhiraja. The rulers of Aryavarta were the only ones which didn't surrender to Samudragupta. So they were uprooted and their kingdoms were added to Samudragupta's empire. Samudragupta's son was Chandragupta II, who defeated the last Shakya ruler. Harshvardhana. The Gupta Empire on its decline was replaced by the rule of Harshvardhana, who ruled the region for 42 years. He first became the king of Thanesar. Later, he took over the kingdom of Kannauj and then led an army against the ruler of Bengal. He conquered both Magadha and Bengal but was defeated by the Chalukya ruler, so couldn't expand his region south of the Narmada river. Harshvardhana was a patron of the arts and a devotee of Buddhism. Under his reign, this North India flourished, but his kingdom collapsed following his death in 647 CE. The Harshcharita. While we can learn about the Gupta ruler from their inscription and coins, we can find out about some kings from biographies. Harshvardhana, who ruled near 1400 years ago, was one such ruler. His court poet Ban Bhatt wrote his biographies, the Harshcharita. Zhuangzhang, about whom you learned in chapter 10, also spent a lot of time at Harsha's court and left a detailed account on what he saw. Harshcharita gives us an idea of political, economic, social, and religious life of that time. It also helps us considerably in the task of creating history of the early 7th century. Moreover, it is the first historical biography in Sanskrit. The Pallavas, Chalukyas, and Pulkeshin. During this period, the Pallavas and Chalukyas were the most important ruling dynasties in South India. Kanchipuram was the capital of the Pallavas and Ahol was the capital of Chalukyas. The Pallavas and Chalukyas frequently raided one another's prosperous kingdoms. The best known Chalukya ruler was Pulkeshin II. He led expedition along the west and east coast, attacked the Pallavas and checked the advance of Harshas. However, ultimately both the Pallavas and the Chalukyas gave way to new rulers belonging to the Rashtrakut and Chola dynasty. How were these kingdoms administered? As in the case of earlier kings, land revenue remained important for these rulers and the village remained the basic unit of administration. There were some new development as well. Kings adopted a number of steps to win the support of men who were powerful either economically or socially or because of their and military strength. Some important administrative posts were now hereditary. This means that sons succeeded fathers to these posts. Sometimes one person held many offices. For instance, besides being a Mahadandanayak, Harisena was a Kumar Amatya, meaning an important minister. These policies were reasonably effective, but sooner or later, some of these powerful men grew strong enough to set up independent kingdoms. A new kind of army. Like earlier rulers, some of these kings maintained a well organized army with elephants, chariots, cavalry, and foot soldiers. Besides, there were military leaders who provided the kings with troops whenever he needed them. They were not paid regular salaries. Instead, some of them received grants of land. They collect revenue from the land and used these to maintain soldiers and horses and provide equipment for warfare. These men were known as Samantas. Whenever the ruler was weak, Samantas tried to become independent. Ordinary people in the kingdoms. We can catch an occasional glimpse of the lives of ordinary people from plays and other accounts. Let us look at some of these. Kalidasa is known for his plays depicting life in the king's court. An interesting feature about these plays is that the king and most Brahmins are shown as speaking Sanskrit, while women and men other than the king and Brahmins use Prakrit. His most famous play, Abhijan Shakuntalam, is the story of the love between a king named Dushyant and a young woman named Shakuntala. We find an interesting description of the plight of a poor fisherman in this play. The Chinese pilgrim Farjian noticed that plight of those who were treated as untouchables by the high and mighty. They were expected to live on the outskirts of the city. He writes, if such a man enters a town or a marketplace, he strikes a piece of wood in order to keep himself separate. People, hearing this sound, know what it means and avoid touching him or brushing against him. And Banabhatta provides us with the vivid pictures of the king's army on the move. Within 100 years, Islam spread to North Africa, Spain, Iran, and India. Arab sailors who were already familiar with the coastal settlements of the subcontinent now brought the new religion with them. Arab soldiers conquered Sindh in present-day Pakistan about 13 years ago. So children, that's all for today. With this last subtopic, I will conclude this interesting chapter here. I hope you liked it. Thank you all.